Jeremy here with Velocity Studio Mix, here to help you create your own studio quality mix in minutes. Now in this episode, we're talking about mixing with reverb plugins. Now I'll be totally honest with you, I'm not a big fan of reverb. Still, it's an important tool in our mixing toolbox that we need from time to time. Like most plugins out there, there's a right way and a wrong way to use them. If you don't use a plugin correctly, you know as well as I know that you could be making your mix worse instead of better. You can't just add heavy amounts of reverb all over your tracks. You may end up destroying the entire mix that way. Reverb should be used sparingly and in the right context. Remember that with reverb, a little bit goes a long way. So to make things easier, here are 3 categories I like to put reverb into. Category number 1, reflections, or sometimes called first reflections. You often see this applied early in the mix to give you that room ambience and just a slight color or a lively feel to the recorded track. For example, your drum kit. Category number 2, placement, where EQ helps to set tracks into the mix by moving frequencies up and down. I feel like reverb can give a track more or less distance in the mix by moving the track forward and back. And then finally, category number 3, effects. This would be your heavy reverbs you purposely lay on a track to give a particular effect. One example would be that heavy industrial sound on a drum kit. Another example would be laying heavy amounts of reverb on a guitar to get that ethereal effect like a keyboard pad. We'll talk about that and more coming up next. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to be looking at a Pro Tools session here. Of course, you can use any DAW that you'd like to use. Any points that we go over will apply to any digital audio workstation. So right in the middle here, we have our buses. Okay, all of our tracks are routed into their appropriate bus. Of course, along the bottom, we have drums, left to right, bass, acoustic guitar, all the way down to keys, Vox, and BVGs. And pretty standard here into our mix bus processing and then out to our mains. So you want that unaffected as you go, for example, from our BVGs here, all 4 tracks over to the bus over here for the BVGs, and then out to our mix bus and to the main out. You want that unaffected, okay? And if you want some type of an effect like we're about to talk about, then you want to normally place actual send or return on your bus or maybe on a track depending on the situation. And so like here, our delay and our reverb, we're going to send it over to our FX folder. So it's essentially sending a copy. Okay, so we have our unaffected signal and then we're sending a copy over to our FX folder. Okay, and that's what this is right here. In case you're not used to seeing this, we're employing Pro Tools as folders. Normally you just line up all your effects, all your faders, all of your channels and tracks. If you have 50 or 100 or 200 tracks, and the only problem with that is on a tutorial like this, it's better if you can use these folders, or I believe it is, because visually it's easier to see with all these breaks, especially if you go through about 50, 100, 200 different channels or tracks that you're looking at. It's easier just to see it visually if you've got these folder breaks. It doesn't route it any differently, okay? All you do is create a folder just like you would create a track, but you designate it folder, and then from there you just click and drag those over into that folder. Another cool thing you can do is like our drum tracks right here. Anytime, it not only visually is easier to see what's going on if you're on a smaller device like an iPad or iPhone, but also you can close those up at any time like we just did, okay? Or when you're ready to start working with them again, you can open it back up. Okay, so it's really cool. Love that. So just so you know, this is an actual folder, not just the divider, but visually, but also a folder. So on the right side here, we have our parallel comp folder. And then over here on our left side, we have our FX folder for our Moz delays and reverbs that we're about to open up. So generally speaking, one of 2 ways we can go about this. As we said before, you can place a send actually on the bus. So in this case, all the BVGs over here are 1, 2, 3, and 4. We want to affect all of those. So we're going to place it actually a send, as you see here, V for verb, D for delay. We're going to set a send, those two sends on this actual bus so we can affect all of those tracks, okay? Instead of placing an actual send on every single one of those tracks. Takes more time, okay? That'd be 8 different sends if we do 4 delays and 4 reverbs. Instead, we can just go over here to the bus, and instead of using a total of 8 sends, we're only using 2 sends, okay? Isn't that cool? All right, so from there, it sends a copy over, as we said, over into our folder here. We're going to open that up, and that's where we have all of our effects in here. And so I love the ability to be able to open and close up that folder. And across the bottom, you notice we've got our D for delay, delay Vox, delay BVGs. Then we get into what we're really going to camp out on, our V drums, verb drums, all the way down to our verb Vox and verb BVGs. And from there, you'll notice at the top, all we do is we place a plugin, okay, that we're going to be talking about. We just place a plugin on the actual fader that we're using, okay? So that brings us to category number 1 that we're going to be talking about. Category number 1, reflections, okay? Also known as early reflections or first reflections. And the idea here is to put just a little bit of texture, not a lot of effect, but a little bit of reverb texture to your drums. Just like if you were recording, wouldn't you want to record in possibly Sunset Studios or Sound City Studios, a famous Abbey Roads studio, and have that treatment sound of those rooms there? Okay, well, with technology, we can do that. Even you're working out of your home or your office, you don't have to have a treated studio to get those sounds. We have these plugins that we can use. Now, as we said, we can put it on the track or we can put it on the bus. In the case of our drums, I want you to notice over here, we've placed no send in our send area for our actual drum bus, okay? And the reason for that is we don't want to affect the entire drum bus, all of the drums. In this case, what we want to do is we're going to want to affect just certain tracks, okay? So you'll notice here we've got our kick 1, snare top, snare bottom, hi-hat, toms, ride, okay? And notice all of those have a V drums, verb drums on them. The only one that doesn't have anything on it is this track right here. And the reason why this is these are easy drums. They're actual performance drums. And in that, you can have the option of exporting also a ambience track, or what I'm calling a room track, which is an actual texture itself, which is another way to go if you don't want to spend the money. It's already a part of Easy Drummer 3. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. So for the moment, what we're going to do is we've got our sends on our track because we don't want it on our entire bus. Again, that sends a copy over to what? It sends it over to our FX folder, right? Which is right over here. And we've opened that up, and we're specifically going to look for V drums. There's our V drums. Okay, so here's our first plugin. It's a Sunset Sound Studios. It's a famous studio, okay, that we can look at. I'm going to go ahead and take the bypass off that. Basically the way this works, just so you know, you can see you could really get deep in here in pre-delay, decay, high pass, low high, mic, width. You've got wet, dry. You've got your input. You've got a reset button. You've got all the presets, tons of presets. In this case, we're not going to use we could use an insert or a send. We're going to use a send, and there's all these presets, and these presets are great. Now, this particular plugin by IK Media, their T-Rax Studio Verb by Sunset Sound, it used to go for about $199, but as of this video, I think it's about $39, so I was able to pick that up. Great way to go. Now, UAD, as we're going to look at in just a few moments, have their Sound City Studios. It is a CPU hog, though. A lot of UAD plugins. They used to have Ocean Waves for years that you could use. But I like these IK Media because they're really, really good. They're crystal clear. They're wonderful. And what they've done to capture everything, but also they're not CPU hogs, and also they're not really expensive now. They've brought the price down. But as you can see, the main controls that I use, there's chamber, okay, and you can scroll around in there and see the 360 view if you want to. And within that, you have 3 choices: Studio, Studio 2, Studio 3. So 3 choices. Then you've got Live Room. Again, you can scroll around and see the actual room. This is the actual room in Sunset Sound. You've got Studio 1, okay, Studio 2, Studio 3, okay. Then there's the ISO booths. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then you've got your plate springs, 1, 2, and 3, okay. And so let's start off with maybe the live room, okay. Of course, you can go here to options and you can change the positioning or the phase. On other of these, like chambers, I think there's one of these, there's like ISO booth or plate spring. There's dampeners that you can, in this case, for plate springs, there's decay and phase, ISO booth, phase, chamber, and live room. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to kind of just keep everything as is, and I'm going to go through some of these presets, and we're going to pull up and down our V drums. Okay, let's do that. And we're going to go over and play just the drums. We're going to solo up the drums. Okay, they're soloed, and here we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to really quick just show you what it sounds unaffected, and then we'll pull it up, okay? Okay, so that's totally unaffected there. And here we go. And of course, you want to bring it back, and you just want to light them out. Okay, now let's go to chamber. Plate spring. ISO booth. And then the live rooms. Okay, so you get the idea here. All we're wanting is just a taste of it, okay? A little bit of a texture. You're not wanting it really affected, okay? You're just wanting reflections from the room to get the sound of the rooms here, okay? All right, so let's go to our next one. Let's bypass that one. Now let's go to our next one. Next one is the same kind of deal here. It's from Fame Studios, another famous studio. Controls look a little different. We've got input, we've got output. We've got Studio A, Studio B, the booths, live room, okay? And, of course, you can look around in those just like you could with the other one. This is also by IK Media. Chamber, booths, there's the live room, okay? Same kind of thing. It's from, I believe, Muscle Shoals, the Fame Studio. Let's go to our next one. This is a replica studio from the Phil Collins, like the In the Air Tonight kind of sounding drums. A lot of different controls here that you can play with, but also the same kind of thing. You've got all the different presets that you can use. So let's just pick a preset. We're going to take the bypass off. Okay, so you get the idea there. It's pretty cool. A lot of choices, a lot of things you can do, but again, you want just a little amount. I've put a lot of reverb on there so you can just hear the difference, but not a big deal there. Let's go ahead and inactivate. And then here's another one that's really cool that I love. It's by a guy, specifically Cole Audio Cult. And what he did is it's actually a fairly cheap reverb, and you can go online to his area and he shows you how he IR'd captured an actual pool that was going to be demolished, has been demolished in Germany. And I've actually swam in that actual pool. That's not a picture of it there. That's just a graphic. But it's really cool reverb that you can use that I really like. And it's, again, another place. It's actual industrial type kind of place. It was an indoor swimming pool in Germany, roughly between Frankfurt and Heidelberg. And when I was over in Europe, had the opportunity to swim there before it actually closed down and then finally was demolished or whatever. So he went in there and captured all these different sounds. And it's funny, of course, again, it didn't look like this. This is just the way he made the actual plug-in look. And as you change the level, it raises up the water. You know, it's really, really cool. One cool thing you could use this for too as well is later on we're going to talk about our number 3 category, making actual effect. You could make kind of a 9-inch nails, kind of a metal drum sound, very percussive industrial sound if you wanted to, very affected. But this is another great reverb, but very cheap and really cool if you'll watch by his very inexpensive plug-in, but you can watch how he actually made this plug-in and captured all those sounds. Really cool. Okay, so we're gonna inactivate that one. And really quick, let's talk about the UAD plugin. Okay, so here we have the UAD Sound City Studios. Now this is a CPU hog, but it's a great plugin. So if you want something a little less intensive on the CPU, use those IK Media plugins, or I've got another option that's even cheaper with the Easy Drums, and they're absolutely amazing as well, where they have their ambience that of their rooms that you can have that's a whole lot cheaper. But this is an amazing plugin. You get the Sound City sound. You can move these mics around if you want to, in and out, anywhere you want to. Of course, there's presets that you can get into in the drums. You can go to tight. That way you have these BOGOs, the partitions, okay? You can even go to a corner of the room, okay? And you can move those mics around. You can go to acoustic, guitar, vocals, ensemble, and then you have all these mics at the bottom, room 2, room 1, and then your closed mics, okay? So absolutely amazing. You can fiddle around with that. There's videos on how to use all this, but it's the same concept. You're getting just a little bit of texture on whatever instrument that you want to use. You don't want to overdo this. You just want to get a little bit of room sound. And the best example I like to use is like for my voice right now, a narrative voice. Could you imagine your drums or your vocals? You don't want a narrator voice like you're narrating on an ebook or whatever, okay, or an audiobook. You want to be able to have just a little bit of texture, and that's what this is for. So our category 1 is reflections, okay? All right, so now finally, let's talk about another option you have besides the UAD plugins or the IK Media plugins. There's also Easy Drummer. If you're already using Easy Drums like we're using in those performances, there's several rooms in there that have ambience already a part of that product that you can use. And so right here, we've got the fader pulled down, but this is the ambience fader that I exported along with the drums. I've just renamed it room 1. Okay, so really quick, let's hear what it sounds like. We're gonna hit play. Let's pull the fader up, and I'm gonna overdo it. Pull it back. Okay, so you've got the sound of the room there. There's several rooms that you can pick from, and several different drum sounds that you can, drum kits that you can pick from. And so that's another way of doing it, a cheaper way of doing it, but it sounds great if you're not wanting a specific sound from a specific studio. So let's pull that up really quick. Easy Drummer. And so when you pull it up, here comes the first room here. It's the basic studio, the main room as they call it. Okay. Now you could pull up other studios that they have. They have main room, they have bright room, tight room. And then also in here, once this loads, here's the bright room, which I like a lot. In here, you have all these different drum kits that you could use. Okay. And then in here is a tab called Mixer. And the great thing about it is there's an ambience, a knob, overheads, drive, crunch, okay? And then you have the different sections. Here's the kick drum, sub kick, kick out, all that kind of stuff. You know, here's your snare, okay? And then on down the line, you've got your toms, okay? And then here's all your overhead. And specifically in here is the ambience, okay? And when you export this, really easy to do, when you go up here and export your tracks, you'll have a track like I showed you earlier that is the ambience track. I've just renamed it to be room 1. Okay, so that's another quick way that you wouldn't even have to use any of the effects on the drums. You can just use this track that they already give you. Okay, they also give you a parallel compression track, but I've already deleted that out, but you can always use that as well. So that should help you for the category 1 reflections. All right, let's talk about category number 2. And for category number 2, we're going to use, for our example, we're going to use our BVGs. I'm going to solo up our Vox and our BVGs, and we're not going to place it on the actual tracks like we did the drums. Instead, we're going to place it like we showed you earlier. We're going to place it on the bus because we're going to affect the entire bus. We did that with the BVGs, and we did that with the Vox. As you can see right here, we've already put a delay and a reverb on both of these. That sends a copy over to our section over here, which is our sends one folder that we've opened up, okay? And so you can see them over here. We've got our delays, DVox and DBVG standing for delay. And then we've got our verb Vox and verb BVGs. And for our verb, what we're using is we're using our Valhalla. Really like this. Awesome. I like anything Valhalla has. In just a moment, we're going to talk about CLA Epic by Chris Lord Alge. Absolutely love that tool. You need to have that, and it's inexpensive. But for the moment, I've got a Valhalla on here, and that's our category 2, which is distance. Category number 2 is distance. And so you're wanting to create, maybe with the vocal, you want it closer up, but you want a little bit of texture on there. But with the BVGs, you want it further in the back. And the way to do that is you can just add more reverb on your BVGs here and not as much on your Vox. All right, so let's hit play here, and we got some rough scratch vocals here. Let's listen to them. Come on, hold my hand again. Okay, so our backing vocals, you can tell we got a lot of reverb on it. Whole lot less on the main vocal though. Take every part again. Okay, it may seem like we've got a lot of reverb and delay on there, but the truth is you need to check it in the mix. Let's check it in the mix and see what it sounds like. And if we go over to the actual full mix with everything in, it's just the right amount, I believe. Again, we've got more effect on the BVGs to put it in the background and the volume. And then with the Vox, we've got the Vox with a less effect, so it'll be closer up in the mix. Come on, hold my hand, yeah. Turn my world upside down, yeah. Come on, take my heart, yeah. Okay, so you get the idea there. Now, really quick, before time gets away from us, I want to really quick talk about another delay reverb that we spoke about, and it's this CLA Epic. It's absolutely amazing. There's all kinds of video tutorials about this, but I absolutely love this tool. So basically, Chris Lord Alge had someone help him design, and they put it out at Waves, okay? And so what you have in this is he has all his analog gear, and he has it on his mixer, routed into his mixer, so he can bring up different types of delays and different types of reverbs, okay? So this is a great tool that'll help you out, that would be very too technical for me to figure out on my own, but he already has all these presets set on his, and he's duplicated that here in a plug-in form. So basically you have all your delays here, okay? You've got all these faders right here to adjust, solo, mute, high pass, low pass. Okay. You've got all the buttons in or out. You've got your input, output. Okay. And then your mix knob over here. So these are all your delays. Here's all your reverbs. And the truth is right here, he's got a slap on. That's the one that's highlighted. And he's also got over here a space on. The truth is you can have 4 reverbs on. You can have 4 delays on, and all at the same time. You can turn these on and off, pull them up and down. The faders, absolutely amazing. What I do and what I would suggest you do is just use the preset and then work from there. So of course he's got all the factory stuff in here, presets. He's got from artists. He's got all their presets in here. Greg Wells, a lot of different ones that you'll recognize. But the just straight up CL presets are absolutely amazing. Drums, guitars, keys. Let's look at the vocals. Vocal 1. Okay, it's a crowd and a plate. Okay. The next one, we've got vocal number 2 is a tape and a plate. Okay. And we're not going to look at all these, but 3 is a slap and a space reverb. Okay. Go down here, CLA 3, we've got a tape and a room. I mean, it just goes on and on. You've got all these options that are already dialed up for you as if you were sitting at his mixing desk and you're moving out, in and out each one of these delays and each one of these reverbs. So a great tool you're going to want to use. I'm going to go ahead and make that inactive right now, but that's absolutely amazing. Now that brings us to our category number 3. Now we're going to talk about, we've talked about reflections, we've talked about distance, and now we're going to talk about actually taking the reverb effect, okay, and affecting an actual track and transformation, so that it's a very drastic change. And we touched on it just a little bit, but we're going to specifically use it in an example here. We've got a clean guitar. We're going to solo that up. We've got a clean guitar lead, kind of a Coldplay sounding deal. Okay, we're going to solo that up. And we're going to solo up our drums so we can hear that. And we're going to hit play. So let's go back here and let's hit play. Okay, we're going to take out the clean rhythm guitar really quick. Okay, so as you can see, we've got 2 tracks here that are playing. Okay, we've actually got 4 tracks, but we've got 2 tracks here that are playing, and that's just what's soloed right now is just the clean guitar, kind of a Coldplay kind of sound hook there. Okay, now over on the right side, we've got 2 other tracks where we've copied those exact same tracks, but we've placed on it a Valhalla shimmer. Okay, and I'm gonna just give you a look at that and what we've done in here. We've got the mix turned up, we've got the feedback turned up, and that's giving us a very ethereal kind of sound. We're going to solo that up and we're going to hit play. You could play that on the keyboard if you wanted to, but I wanted to play it on the guitar. And then the other tracks together, and then everything together. Okay, pretty amazing. Now let's play that again with everything in. Absolutely amazing. So all we did is on those tracks we placed, we've got our 2 lead clean, then we doubled them, and then we put the Valhalla on it. So absolutely amazing. Hopefully you like that. It's a great way of having an actual effect, you know, on your a transformative effect. As we said before, you could also do that with the drums. You could place like that Rotten Pool reverb that we showed you from Cole Audio. And you could make a very industrial sound on your drums, you know, for an intro or for an outro or whatever. So 3 categories there. You've got reflections that we've placed reverbs in, Category number 2 to create distance, especially on your vocals. And then category number 3 for a total transformation as far as effect, having a huge effect, totally transforming the track. And so hopefully that helps you. And until next time, happy creating.